First, I just want to go over some information about what Chainbreakers is. Chainbreaker, it's an organization that, like I said, is member-based economic and environment justice organization. We also have a bike resource center. I'm just going to touch on that a little bit of if I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but in our bike resource center, we offer uh, classes. We give away bikes, and then we offer classes on how to take care of those bikes, as well as offer an area where we teach skills to maintain proper use of the bike and make sure that they're in working order. So that's just a little bit about what Chainbreakers is. But today we're going to talk about the moratorium that's going to be ending in a eviction on rent help. Now, this first slide that I'm going to show you here, these are just some important dates that we need to focus on. Back in March of 2020, the New Mexico Supreme Court issues an eviction moratorium for non-payment, but this is only for non-payment of rent only. So this is not other issues regarding eviction. It's just for non-payment only. Now, in January of 2022, the Supreme Court issues a court order explaining what will happen after the moratorium ends, explaining the eviction diversion program. Okay, and then let's see here. Then February 1st, 2022, moratorium ends. They do a test run or a test project where it ends in Curry and Roosevelt counties only. So they're going to test out to ending the moratorium in these two counties. And then on March 1st is the deadline where the moratorium ends statewide and the eviction diversion program begins. So right now, with the moratorium in place, landlords are required to participate in the rental help. But as of March 1st, landlords are not required to participate in rent help. Excuse me. Okay, and so this is how eviction happens. You first start off with your landlord and tenant agreements, which is a lease or agreement between you and your landlord. Normally what would happen is if for any of these reasons, non-payment, any kind of violation in the lease violation, non-rent debt, or just no fault, no cause, they just do not want to renew the lease. This is normally how this happens. Your notices, you get 3-day notices, a 7-day notice, and then a 30-day notice, depending on why the landlord wants to evict you. So once the landlord gives you one of these notices, then he doesn't get any kind of retribution from that. He can then file a petition in the court to seek restitution, which will require the tenant to pay back the rent or any utility payments that have been missed. So at that point, the judge will decide what would happen and then would proceed either with the eviction or if there's evidence of a necessary eviction. And then the tenant is given a writ which is enforced in 3 to 7 days. So then that's the eviction process. Now, this was how it was happening before the moratorium happened. And so now that the moratorium is happening, we have a little bit of a different one. Okay, so here you can see first the city of the New Mexico state says that they'll step in, they'll determine if the tenant is responsible for any past due rent or charges, utility payments, and at that once the monetary is confirmed, then that is well, once the judge says that there's a financial responsibility that needs to be paid back, then they'll put a writ in, but they still are not able to evict people out of their homes. They'll still have to be in their home, but this is all going to end on March 1st. So that's when also the city has a moratorium in place, which is also going to end with the same date that the New Mexico Supreme Court moratorium ends. So now, okay, now, so did you, okay. I'm sorry, this is my first Zoom meeting here, but I'm definitely working through it, so we'll get through it. Okay, so now, so that we're going to talk about how the eviction diversion will work. Now, what this is people will have to apply for rent help at renthelp.com. Sorry, I need to put that. In order to be eligible for rent help, you have to be, first of all, a renter in New Mexico. You have to owe rent or utility. It doesn't have to be past due. It's just either now or in the future. You have to have an annual household income that falls below the program's income limits, which you can see here. We have this hyperlink. You can go through there, but it definitely tells you when a 1 to 2, 3-person household limit, what the income limits are. But that is pretty much some of the only limitations that we are experiencing. But definitely there is opportunity there. Also, you have to have been affected financially by COVID pandemic. If you receive unemployment benefits or experienced a reduction in household income, those are all things, again, that will help you discern if you're eligible for rent help. But again, you want to make sure you give it a try, because it's better to give it a try and them say no than not to give it a try at all. This is also it's also if you're at risk for experiencing homelessness or housing instability. It doesn't mean now or in the past. It could be in the future as well. So you just want to make sure that you're covered and that you definitely have a roof over your head at all times. So the applicants can receive up to 15 months of assistance. So this goes back retroactive or proactive. So it doesn't have to be, it's just a 15-month span. And usually what they'll do is they'll do that in 3-month increments. So you'll be able to get 3-month increments. You'll be able to get 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. And then usually the funds are directly paid to the landlord. Now, if your landlord doesn't want to participate in the program, the funds will be directly paid to the tenant. And then the tenant will be able to direct where the funds go, but that's only until March 1st. And then you need to, important date is September 30th, 2022, because this is the day that you have to have your first application at least in for renthelpnewmexico.com. And again, the landlords are not required after March 1st to participate in these programs. So that's just a little bit there. I want to take you to the Rent Help website. It's when you go to the website, it can be a little confusing, but you just gotta make sure you read. It first says here, Dona Ana County. You can apply there. That's not the only county. And then it goes on to say Bernalillo County outside of Albuquerque city limits. So this is just anywhere except for Bernalillo County, Albuquerque city limits. And then the rest, anywhere else in New Mexico, Santa Fe, Albuquerque, anywhere else that were not listed in these two above, you'll be able to go here. Now, when you go here, they also have other programs for hotel and motel assistance, relocation assistance, assistance for homeowners, but this is all right here, and this is the website that you would need to go to. You also have a link up at the top here where you can select your language, even though it sometimes is a little finicky. You just want to make sure that you are aware of that. Now, when you do start to fill out your application, you start here. This pre-qualifying application, it talks about your city, county, how many household members are in there, what's your annual household income, how does your household require to pay rent on a residence. So these are important, directly or indirectly. This just gives you some pointers on how to start your application. Once yes to all the questions on this field, use your email address and phone number to make an account with its own password to complete this application. Now, if you have issues with doing any kind of electronic documentation, or you don't have an email, they do have a form, a link at the bottom of the main page where you can download a digital copy of the actual application and fill it out, and you can hand deliver it to their offices here in Santa Fe, or mail it in. But there's just different, there's other ways that you can do it if you're not able to access these forms online. What documentation you will need is important when you do fill out this application. You're going to need a proof of ID, whether that be like a driver's license, a visa, passport, military ID, any kind of foreign national ID, birth certificate, social security card, anything issued, a social security number. Also, an important note, a social security number is not required. They do give you specific information on how to apply by either putting a certain enter 9 7s in the application, or just something out there. So a social security number is not required. Now, you'll also need proof of current rental obligation. So that means like a lease, a rental agreement, a statement from the landlord, anything that a proof of past due rent, anything that can substantiate you doing that. And again, those are things that some people may not have. So they do have forms that you can fill out, which again, you can these are forms that you can fill out if you do not have like a lease or proof of rental obligation. Proof of income, W-2, W-9. Again, don't feel threatened by those words or those documents. You can also have another form that you fill out, just assessing that you have zero income to claim, so that you do not have proof of income. So don't be afraid just because you don't have proof. There's always a way to get past that. These are optional documents, supporting documents. Some of that would be current proof of unemployment if you're receiving unemployment. Those documents from the Department of Workforce Solutions will definitely help you with your rent help. Eviction notice, if you have an eviction notice, or any other court related notice, those are optional information that you can give when you apply for your rent house. Now, rental agreements, it's important when you are a renter to know what your rights are as a renter. And sometimes we don't always feel comfortable in finding where this information is. So what we have done here is we have just listed what some of the proper notices are, rules and regulations. Late fees capped at 10%. For example, if you're late on your rent, they can only charge you up to 10% of your monthly rent within the following month. Damage deposit, 1 month rent, obligations of the owner, health and safety. So these are all important rights and issues that it's good to educate yourself on if you're a renter. That way you have the vocabulary that you'll need to engage your landlord if you're in these situations. Again, know your rights. Other issues that we have: obligations of the resident, what your obligations are, obligations of the owner, what their obligations are, if they can enter your apartment unlawful, unreasonable, or repeated entry, tenant can terminate the agreement. Rent abatement, withhold 1/3 for repairs. If the landlord refuses to repair anything, that you can refuse to pay your rent. So these are just rights that you have as a renter, and the responsibilities of a landlord. So these are just important rights that you should know as far as renting or being a renter. And then this last slide here, it just gives you the information on how to apply for renthelpnewmexico.org. And then that's also the New Mexico Department of Finance Administration hotline. And also, if you can get a hold of them, there's also availability to go directly to their offices here in Santa Fe. Also, below you'll see there's 3 different emails that you can reach any of us here at Chainbreaker. We are always willing to help. We are not, um, we are, we help people with rental assistance, but we are not trained legally. We are not attorneys. We are just um, helping people to educate them as far as their rights. So, but we are willing to help, and this is how you would get a hold of us. And with that, I think that's pretty much what I have to say.